Good afternoon, everybody. It's Friday afternoon here in beautiful South Central Pennsylvania. Not really beautiful today. And I want to ask you a question. Have you ever had a friend that you thought was a close friend and then boom, one day they were gone. They weren't coming around. They weren't calling you. They weren't texting you. They just disappeared. Well, there's a reason for that, or maybe reasons. And today I'm going to talk about those reasons, why it happens, and then what happens eventually in most cases. Hi, my name is Kaz. This is my new podcast, Cause and Effect. I'm hoping that something that I say will affect you. That's where the name comes from. I'm going to talk about life stories that are positive and things that I see and hear out in the everyday world. So what got me thinking about this subject of friends that just disappear? Believe it or not, it's the World Cup soccer tournament that's going on right now. I've seen a lot of videos in the last few days about the World Cup. I am not a fan of soccer/European football. But what's happened with the World Cup is very interesting to me because literally hundreds of thousands of people from Europe and other countries have come to America and Canada to take part in the World Cup games because soccer is huge in those other countries. And, it's growing here rapidly, and it has been for about 20 years. And they want to be part of the World Cup. The World Cup is actually the largest sporting event in the world. And the European fans all over the world, other than here, are rabid about soccer. But what's interesting about what's going on with the World Cup is the impressions of the people who have come here from other countries to go to the World Cup games. And those folks are from Scotland, England, France, you name the country, they're probably here. And there are a ton of shorts and actual long form videos online made by these folks that are visitors here talking about how they absolutely love America. How they love America. They love our food. They love our country. They think it's beautiful. It's clean. And most of all, they love the American people. So why does this seem like big news? And how does that fit into my topic of when they realized they were lied to? It fits in because almost all of these people that are making these videos singing the praises of the United States and its people have said this, that they have been lied to their whole lives by their media in their own countries about what America is like, about how the food is terrible, about how the people are angry and mean, about how there's no culture here, about how it's a rundown, crime-ridden, horrible place. And they have found out exactly the opposite. They have found out that they love America. And this is true whether the person making the video is young, say a 20-something, or older, like a 60-something. I saw a video this morning of a man from Scotland. He was headed back home today, and he was nearly in tears speaking about how great America is. I encourage you to go online and check out some of these videos. It's refreshing, and I think we could all learn a little something from these videos. As Americans, we take what we have for granted often. A lot of what we have for granted. A lot of us take it for granted. And this should be a wake-up call to every American about how great America is. There's tons of these people saying there's nowhere else like this in the world. I'm going to tie this in now to a more personal story that I'm sure many of you have had to deal with at some point in your lives. And maybe you're dealing with it now. And that goes back to my first question I asked you. Have you ever had a friend, a good friend, someone that you did things with, you hung out with, you talked to about your personal things, and then boom, one day they were just gone. And you're left wondering, what the hell happened? Why are they ignoring me? Why did they go away? Well, I could tell you most of the time, just like the Europeans and their media, most of the time that friend of yours has been lied to. Somebody has gotten in that friend's ear and told them that you either did something or said something, and whatever they are accusing you of is just not true. I'm going to illustrate this very clearly by telling you a personal story that happened to me. I had a good friend. I was a couple, good friends. This was about, I'm going to say 4 years ago. They were folks we met. They were great folks. We became pretty darn good friends with them. And then one day they just stopped coming around. They started hanging with a different crowd. And it was just like an instant break. We just didn't see them, hear from them at all. And, we were like, gosh, I wonder what happened. I wonder if we did something. And when I say we, I'm talking about my wife and I. We thought long and hard about it, and we couldn't think of anything. We couldn't think of anything. And these folks were out of our lives for about a year. And then one day I got a private message from the wife. I'm not going to mention names here, saying, hey, I saw that you guys are going to be hanging out at such and such a place tonight. My husband and I would like to come and hang out with you guys. And I didn't hesitate to say yes. Now, my wife was very cautious. She's like, they gotta earn our trust back, this, that, and the other thing. And I said, I'd rather just sit down and talk with them and find out what happened and what's going on. So sure enough, they were true to their word. They showed up. They sat a little bit away from the rest of the crowd. We had a big crowd that night, maybe 18 or 20 people that were hanging out. And they sat in a booth sort of off to the side, just a little bit by themselves. And I just immediately went over and slid into the booth next to one of them and said, hey, you mind if I sit with you? And they were like, no, not at all. And I kind of let them take the lead. I didn't start badgering them about what happened or anything. But the wife, I know, is very well-educated, well-spoken woman. And I figured at some point, and look, these folks have good values. I figured at some point, one of them, but probably the wife, would bring it up. And it didn't take long, just a matter of a few minutes. And that couple went on to explain to me what happened. And what happened? Exactly what I said. Somebody got in their ear and told them that we said this and said that. And it wasn't true. It just was not true. And I knew who did this, and I suspected it from the beginning, and it was confirmed. And what happened was this couple found out, because they're smart and they pay attention to what's going on around them, they found out at some point that it just was not true. And that's when they realized, I think we might have stepped in it a little bit here. And that's when they took the opportunity to contact me and say, hey, we'd like to hang out. And we had a nice discussion that night. It was long, and all the cards were laid on the table. They told me how they felt. They were apologetic. I told them how I felt about the whole thing. I'm a forgiving person in most cases, most, not all. There's some things that you just can't forgive people for. But in most cases, I believe people deserve a second chance. And those friends have become even better friends now. They've been around for the last, 3 years, 2.5, 3 years. And our friendship has grown. They're good folks. I'm glad to have them in my life. And my wife feels the same way. So the lesson here is this. Well, first, there's a question that should be asked. Why would somebody do that? Why would somebody lie about you? Why would somebody say you did or said this if you didn't? And the reason for that is people have ulterior motives. Maybe they want that friend of yours in their friend group more. Maybe they think getting that friend out of your friend group will hurt you, whatever. But there's usually an ulterior motive. And when people walk away from me like that, I don't let it bother me. I mean, I'm always like, well, gosh, why'd that happen? But I don't let it bother me. I figure they will either figure it out in time, or they will not, and life goes on. I'm not going to go seeking people out and sitting them down at a table and barking at them. I'm not going to do it. It's not my style. Okay. So usually those ulterior motives will rear their ugly heads and folks will figure it out. Not always. I still have some right now, some old friends that don't come around anymore for the same reason. Somebody filled their head up with a lot of nonsense, and I don't really know what that nonsense was. And honestly, I don't really care. But believe me, that's what happened. I am 99% sure. Okay. So, you know, we all deal with these things differently, and I'm going to encourage you to take a calm approach to this, because if somebody doesn't want to be your friend, they're not going to be your friend. They need to figure it out for themselves. They need to figure out that somebody deceived them, lied to them, whatever. I just had another friend very, very recently who my wife and I were very, very close to, and that relationship has been really strained for a year. I'm going to say a year, might be a little longer. And we were still friendly, but we weren't friends like we were. And that person came to me pretty recently and said, I'm sorry. Somebody told me this, this, and this. Now they didn't specify. And they said, I believed them. And I am so sorry I believed them. Now, I would have liked to have had them be a little more specific, like what was said and maybe even who said it. Not that I would go after anybody, but it's nice to know who's stabbing you in the back when you're not around, right? But that part of the conversation didn't happen, so it still makes the friendship not like it was. And, there's nothing we can do about that. That's just the way it is. Okay. So, this happens to all of us. It's not unique. Somebody always thinks they know better. And usually that's just not the case. Approach these things calmly and logically. A lot of times they fix themselves, like in our case. If you go and you just get in somebody's face and start screaming at them and demanding answers, it's not going to work. All you're going to do is push them farther away. So your best bet is to bide your time. Just be yourself around everybody else, and they'll see this or they'll figure it out, and hopefully some healing can take place. That's it for today. I'm going to encourage you, as I always do, to do something kind for somebody, even something simple. It'll make you feel good. It'll make them feel good. And in some small way, it will help to change the world for the better. I'm going to ask you to subscribe to my channel. Click that bell so you get the notifications when I post a new video. I'll be posting a video about every 3 days for a while at least, and then we'll see where it goes from there. I'm still sorting this out a little bit. I am pretty comfortable doing it. But, it'll get better as time goes on. I got some things, some irons in the fire that I'm going to work on. Everybody be kind, be good. Have a great day.